And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election.
AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
Bill Maher just sat down with former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and let's just say things got fiery. Sure, there were jabs, snark, and the usual political theatrics, but when the topic shifted to AOC and the rising buzz around a potential 2028 presidential run, McCarthy floated the idea of AOC leading the Democratic ticket, and Maher didn't just reject it. He torched it. With the precision of a surgeon and the bite of a seasoned satirist, he laid bare what he sees as the party's blind march toward a 2028 disaster. Every blistering moment from that showdown is on deck. So if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time because you don't want to miss what comes next.
They gamed the system. They changed it.
And who do you see on the horizon for 2028 in the Democratic primary?
Right now?
Yeah.
Bernie and AOC.
No.
They got the biggest crowds.
That doesn't matter.
It won't sustain itself, but right now they have no leader. Okay? But this is the thing the Republican Party has to understand too. Both parties lost in the last election. Trump won, okay? And I don't know if that's going to transfer. We should have won 4 more seats in the Senate. If you looked at the last 70 races for the Senate, 69 follow exactly the way
I think it's Moore versus Youngkin. That's where I see it.
Youngkin would be.
Youngkin
it's
is
going to go back to
adjacent, and then Vance and Jr. will fight it out for that crowd.
You're AOC and Bernie, and who's at the top of the ticket?
They're going to lead right now.
Who's at the top of that ticket, Kevin? Because if it's not Bernie, he's going to be vice president and then wait his turn?
It's as if Bill Maher physically recoils at the mere mention of AOC leading the Democratic charge into 2028, and honestly, can you blame him? The buzz around her is deafening. Don Lemon is practically singing her praises. Kevin McCarthy seems oddly fixated, and a surprising number of Democratic heavyweights are whispering her name like it's the party's salvation. But here's the twist. Beneath all the headlines and hashtag hype, there's a deeper unease. It feels like the Democrats are doubling down on charisma and social media clout, gambling that influence can somehow substitute for experience. And Maher, he's not having it. His takedown of the Bernie AOC dream ticket was sharp enough to rattle even the most loyal progressives, and the internet lit up in response. This isn't just about one candidate. It's about a party on the verge of an identity crisis, torn between embracing the full force of woke progressivism or slamming on the brakes before idealism veers off a political cliff. And Maher's not pulling any punches while the backlash only grows louder.
He's been running each time. I'm just saying who's in the lead right now. I don't think that's how it ends up.
But big crowds don't necessarily mean who's the right candidate. When I started
but it drives where the ideas are going to go. It's going to drive the money for a while.
It doesn't make them the winner.
It doesn't make them the winner. You'll have to wait till you'll get 2 years out, and then you'll start seeing these governors that start showing solutions. You also have to know, what is the issue going to be? Are we going to have a foreign policy issue? Are we going to have an economic issue? And who's been the best in leading in that? But right now for the Democrats, who's going to lead for the next 2 years, the money is going to... AOC outraised everybody in the House.
And it's all small donors.
It's all small donors. Yeah. And this is exactly where Trump was when no one gave him a chance at 17. He outraised everybody else. So that's where the base is at.
And there it is, the beating heart of the issue. Elections aren't just about who can shout the loudest or stack the biggest war chest. If they were, Kamala Harris would be a political juggernaut right now. She had it all, are some tailored for history books, a jaw-dropping $1.5 billion campaign haul, and an A-list entourage hyping her like she was headlining Coachella. Stadiums filled, headlines gushed, and yet she crashed hard. One of the most dramatic implosions in modern political memory. That's exactly what Maher is drilling into. The left's obsession with aesthetics over authenticity. flashover foundation, mistaking viral moments for voter trust. It's like strategy took a back seat to the spectacle, and nobody noticed until it was too late. Now, compare that to Trump love him or loathe him. The man had a message. It cut through the noise. It felt raw, unrehearsed, and to many, painfully real. He wasn't spinning utopian TED Talks or alienating moderates with activist jargon. He was simply Trump, unfiltered, relatable to millions. Meanwhile, Harris somehow managed the impossible, being everywhere, yet leaving barely a trace. A ghost with a megaphone. If you can wade through the word salad, the real story reveals itself. AOC isn't chasing the top slot on the House Oversight Committee, and it's not hard to figure out why. In the Democratic Party, seniority still rules the roost, and that old-school hierarchy has never been kind to political disruptors. Just ask her about last year's gut check loss to 75-year-old Jerry Connolly, a humbling reminder that influence in D.C. isn't earned with retweets alone. But here's the twist. Stepping up to oversight wouldn't just be a gamble, it would require her to surrender her coveted seat on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And that's no ordinary assignment. That's a power seat, a launchpad for anyone serious about shaping national conversations on climate policy, corporate accountability, and tech regulation. If you've got presidential ambitions brewing, you don't give that up for a front row seat in a political food fight. Oversight might serve viral moments, sure, but Energy and Commerce serves legislative muscle, and AOC knows exactly what she's doing. Every move is calibrated for visibility, for influence, for a future much bigger than a single committee. Still, not everyone's convinced. Pundits like Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld see through the performance, or so they claim, and they've got their own reasons why she'll never be the Democrats' next breakout star.
AOC finally responded proudly concerning a high school yearbook photo that proves she grew up in a wealthy suburb. She said, "See, I told you I went to high school."
And I can tell you, I know that when I was waitressing and struggling to put food on the table, for a while there, I did. I tried to stop caring. I tried to just keep my head down, work my shifts, and accept that this is just how things are. But that is no way to live, Arizona. It's no way to live.
So, here's something you may not know. AOC's real name isn't exactly AOC. It's Sandy Ocasio, and a recent deep dive into her background has unearthed some inconvenient truths that don't quite match the narrative she's known for. Despite the oft-repeated origin story of a scrappy girl from the Bronx rising from struggle to Congress, public records suggest her upbringing was far more stable and significantly more suburban than the gritty tale implies. Think more leafy cul-de-sacs than concrete jungle. And then there's the famous waitressing job she constantly highlights as her badge of working-class grit. But let's be honest, plenty of middle-class, even well-off college students pull shifts behind a bar or serve tables for a few months. It's almost a rite of passage in America, not exactly a window into systemic poverty. None of this means she can't speak on economic injustice, but it does raise eyebrows. That carefully curated from the struggle image starts to feel more like branding than biography, and once that illusion cracks, it's hard to unsee.
AOC. What? She's kind of fun in a silly but earnest, wrong but adorable way. She's like your daughter when she comes back from her first year at Brown, full of half-baked, half opinions, in need of some gentle, patient deprogramming. But people have to realize new faces doesn't mean new ideas. Drives me crazy. AOC has never introduced a fresh idea or issue in her life.
What's both fascinating and, frankly, a little alarming is how easily people have bought into her carefully choreographed origin story. The myth of the fearless underdog who clawed her way up from hardship to heroism has been swallowed whole, no questions asked. She's cast as the bold crusader, the voice of the voiceless, the woman who dares to challenge the system and will somehow save America. But peel back the layers, and the foundation starts to wobble. Much of the adversity she claims to have overcome is either exaggerated, selectively told, or just plain misleading. Her rise wasn't built on a bedrock of unwavering principle, it was constructed through sharp branding instincts and a deep understanding of how to captivate in the age of social media. Yet, many remain mesmerized. They mistake rapid-fire monologues for eloquence and see choreographed outrage as evidence of courage. What's hailed as bravery often feels more like branding. This isn't the raw authenticity of leadership, it's political theater, dressed up in defiance, sold with hashtags, and applauded like a viral TED Talk.
By now you heard that AOC, among others, were arrested last night. She truly is an American hero. It was brutal, taken out in cuffs. Well, technically, her shirt had cuffs. Maybe French cuffs.
It all unfolded during a high-profile protest against the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a moment that ignited fury across the progressive landscape. And true to form, AOC and her ideological entourage showed up in full theatrical force, visibly outraged at the idea that unborn lives might now be granted a fighting chance. This is exactly the kind of political circus Bill Maher's been warning about, a landscape where rigid ideology tramples over nuance, and emotional spectacle replaces thoughtful debate. Figures like AOC, and yes, Kamala Harris, aren't guiding the Democratic Party toward victory, they're steering it into a cul-de-sac of culture where theatrics. Their politics aren't built on unity or grounded policy. They're engineered for retweets and viral indignation, more interested in catching fire on TikTok than connecting with the struggling middle class. Every statement feels focus-tested for activist clout, not real-world impact. Meanwhile, the voters who actually swing elections, the suburban moms, the independents, the moderates, are tuning out, exhausted, disillusioned. And if the party keeps mistaking Twitter buzz for a political base, 2028 won't just echo the mess of 2024, it might redefine political self-sabotage.
Like AOC, that he should be impeached is just absurd. Absurd. There's no... Okay, get back to me when you've read the Constitution or get a law degree, because you sound like an absolute idiot. There is absolutely no ground to impeach the president. He 100% was within his constitutional authority and his congressionally authorized authority to do what he did on Saturday. Okay, but as for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine, I'm okay with that too. If you want to bring it to Congress, go ahead and see how that goes. I don't think it's necessary, but go.
Beyond her relentless embrace of all things woke, AOC seems to exhibit a chronic case of what some call Trump derangement syndrome, a political condition that triggers an almost reflexive meltdown whenever the former president's name is uttered. And the latest example, her enthusiastic support for one of the most performative and puzzling political stunts in recent memory. Yet another push to impeach Trump. This time, the charge? A supposed plan to launch nuclear strikes on Iran. But context matters, and in reality, this wasn't about starting a war. It was about deterrence, diplomacy through strength, and safeguarding American interests. Still, in AOC's narrative, nuance gets tossed out in favor of moral posturing. This wasn't about justice, it was about feeding the outrage machine. It's less about constitutional accountability and more about capturing clout, headlines, and those sweet viral moments. The problem? While the cameras roll and Twitter applauds, real-world issues go unaddressed. AOC's fixation on Trump isn't strategy, it's obsession masquerading as purpose. And beneath the fiery speeches and hashtag activism lies a glaring truth. For all the spectacle, there's precious little substance behind the curtain.
Donald Trump is a criminal who was found guilty of 34 felony counts of fraud, liable for sexual abuse. Of course he's lying and abusing and manipulating the stock market too. When he talks about and criminals, he should look in the mirror.
Okay. Clearly saying that Donald Trump is a racist. Sorry. She also thinks he's a racist. He's all the ists. But here, she's in deep trouble because he was not found liable for. And George Stephanopoulos just had to pay ABC some $15 million to President Trump to settle a defamation lawsuit.
Honestly, this might just be the reality check AOC desperately needs, a much overdue lesson in the power of restraint and the importance of facts over fiery rhetoric. Her nonstop parade of half-cooked hot takes and emotional mic drops might light up social media feeds, but in the real world, words carry weight. Reckless statements don't just stir online applause, they create real-world consequences. And while this moment should be a wake-up call for her personally, it also doubles as a broader warning for our political culture. Don't join the outrage mob without checking your facts first. The performative outrage might trend, but it doesn't lead. It distracts. It divides. Frankly, if Trump hit back with a lawsuit, it wouldn't be out of spite, it might actually be the accountability jolt Washington sorely lacks. Because somewhere along the way, we let political theater replace truth and allowed smear tactics to go unchecked under the excuse of passion. That has to stop. AOC's repeated missteps, her embellished backstory, the baseless Trump tirades, and endless woke grandstanding might energize her most devoted followers, but they do little to advance real leadership. In fact, they expose how ill-equipped she is for the responsibility she claims to hold. America isn't starving for more spectacle, we're starving for seriousness. Leaders who deal in facts, not filters. Substance, not slogans. And at some point, we have to start demanding more than just a good show.